Hi there, welcome to the video. The creator, the causation and catalyst has arrived, also known as Warlike Ref. Today I wanted to analyse, assess and document Bob Farrell's recent outburst and loss of control. Once again, Bob Farrell has lost control, acted out, started swearing, names, insults thrown over this way. Some could interpret it as an attack on Warlike Ref, but nevertheless, it's worth documenting as we monitor the changes and tones and behaviour of human beings on this planet, especially when it's tied in with a case such as Dylan Rounds, as a few people will be familiar with, and those who may not know, me, Warlike Ref, has covered the Dylan Rounds true crime original missing person case from early on. At the time of when Dylan Rounds went missing, 28th of May 2022, I engaged with it roughly just under a month later or so. And ever since, I've made videos on the case, keeping it alive, looking at the latest updates from the family, the police, the official news, with my own ideas and theories clearly outlined, whilst other people have gone against the story and have caused trouble, disruption. Bob Farrell being a prime example, and his bandits, his audience members doing the same thing. Not all, but a range. In the presence of that going on with time, I simply highlighted it. I gave my thoughts and ideas on the matter and even debunked the odd thing. And obviously that caused a wave of people getting triggered. Take in mind, it appears that one seems to trigger people even when one isn't trying. It is what it is. It's just the way human mindsets are and the way they are programmed, right? So we're taking that into mind. Why was there an outburst, an outcry from Bob Farrell? Why did he lose control recently? Why did he start attacking Warlike Ref? What was the reason behind it? Because surely there has to be an initial point, a triggering factor. Well, that can be explained right now. So, what Warlike Ref did was create a video analysing what Bob Farrell had to say because it just so happened to directly correlate to the Dylan Rounds case. And anything related to the Dylan Rounds case, whether it be conflict, BS, misinformation, or pure information and facts, it will be looked at, it will be documented. If I've covered that case in all different areas, angles and perspectives, this one shouldn't be excluded, it should be included, and that's exactly what I did. From being a witness of the past and a couple of other viewers as well present, seeing how people acted back then, what they had to say about the case, what they talked about, what they enabled, it didn't do much good for the Dylan Rounds case. Now, I'm fully aware there's a range of humans out there, named individuals and audience members that do have a very poor memory and a mindset of a goldfish. So if you try telling them what they've done wrong and what they've messed up on, they're going to deny it. Some people will just outright deny it because of a subconscious mindset and a self-defense mechanism within, unable to acknowledge what they've done or what they've said back then. It's just a form of denial, defense mechanism. When anyone ever gets very defensive immediately, you can wonder and question why. And if it's on a regular occurrence or basis, yeah. In real life, I've seen some very defensive people. You point one thing out, you question one thing about someone, you mention an observation, and they lose their mind. They snap, they retaliate, they whinge, whine, and complain, and their tone of voice, their pace of voice raises and gets louder. It's a form of resistance. The only reason why a person would be showing resistance is if they've got something to hide. And if it's on a repetitive scale, it's more likely to be the case. Now, when it came to Bob Farrell, such as in the past, I did do my analysis. I did document human behavior and the changes, the attitudes and what's been said and how people went about with things, and poor language, poor vocabulary, etc. can be very harmful in a case if things are misworded, missaid, because it leads to confusion. It can lead to time wastage, it can lead to tension, and tension can lead to conflict, and then tension and conflict can lead to people being attacked for whatever reason, all through a simple misunderstanding. It can have a chain effect, and obviously people don't seem to understand that, more so outsiders that come to my channel. Humans don't understand the importance and the impact it can have, hence why most of these humans are trapped within an endless cycle. That's their problem. They want to be a lost cause, they can choose to be so. I'm breaking the cycle, okay? More so, I'm shedding light on the cycle. So if people were to look, listen, and learn, it could benefit you as well. But it all comes down to whether you want to take it in the first place. If your mind is very set and focused on one thing, or you may be very biased and a supporter of someone out there who you're defending, well, it's going to be a lot of selective hearing, and we're not really going to get anywhere. And I'm not going to waste my time in a situation like that, for example, breaking the cycle there. Now, when I have mentioned Bob's name in the past, the first thing that comes to his mind is, oh, look, he's attacking me again. Now, there were some videos in the past where it wasn't attacking Bob, it was just an observation. I mentioned strengths, weaknesses, positives and negatives about that person, just like how you can apply it to most humans out there. Most humans out there will have strengths, but will also have weaknesses. There'll be some good compliments and points to be made about a person, but also maybe negatives or critiques. It is what it is. No one is truly definitively perfect. People can try to be as close to perfect as possible, but it's never truly attained. That's being realistic, okay? But the issue with Bob is that in the past, because of doing live premieres, you know what live premieres are. So there'll be like a public watch page, a live countdown. There'll be the thumbnail and title displayed. It doesn't tell the full story. You have to wait for the video to play. You have to wait for the countdown. And obviously, because of time zone difference, I can make a video earlier on in the day, set it as a live premiere. So when others see it early on, they'll be thinking, oh no, what's this all about? And Bob Farrell is a good example of an impetuous, egocentric individual that jumps the gun when it comes to reading titles and videos, which may include his name. Bob instantly jumps to the conclusion of, oh, this is going to be very negative, or this is a personal negative attack on myself. But it hasn't always been the case. So with Bob jumping the gun, that's not a good look. That is an observation, that is all, okay? The video that was done as of yesterday, that was because it was to do with the Dylan Rounds case. For an individual to appear pretty neutral and somewhat positive in the Dylan Rounds case, yet what they've done in the past, or at least enabled, amplified, has been of a negative nature. If humans, more so third-party people that don't regularly come to my channel or watch, but are popping in every now and then, such as here, if people like that honestly don't see what I've seen, well, I think there is a problem, okay? Because with engaging in the Dylan Rounds case, from watching the interviews in the past, the formal ones, and listening in here and there when it's come to the live panels, you have got to get a sense of things to understand human behavior, how one interacts with another person and what's being talked about at the time. You don't have to sit there for hours on end and watch everything. Now, you just get a grasp of the idea of what's happening and what's occurring. And with the help of viewers with time who have probably spent more time than me watching all these videos out there and live streams and shows and hearing stuff along the way, and then re-quoting it later as to where it came from, very helpful. Just like how Quintessential Organics in the past had a spreadsheet on Excel which had every bit of information, rumour, event and fact, colour-coded and organised, done very well. As overwhelming as it was clearly organised. It gave the date when it was talked about, and it actually gave the location and name of channel and who said it at the time. Something like that, good form of categorisation and clarity. Things like that can speed up the process of learning about stuff. And a range of people have come and gone with time, and even regular viewers have passed on saying, have you heard about this and that? And I've always questioned, never heard of, because it was never truly official information at that time, or it never was to begin with. So that says a lot. And when I did reply back saying, well, where did it come from? People said either Jim Terry or Bob Farrell or Shack Lady. And at times, excluding Shack Lady, right, the likes of Jim Terry, Bob Farrell, together as one in the past. So whether it be directly coming from the mouth of Bob or directly from the mouth of the person that's next to him in line, because they're together, both as bad as each other. And as I've always said, this does not directly correlate to one said individual such as Bob. It can apply to many other humans out there. The reason why I'm using Bob Farrell as a case study to spread awareness of the situation, the change in behaviour, the shedding the skin, the goldfish mentality, all valid points and observations which have been witnessed and observed with time from start to finish, done in a very formal, overt, non-participant way. Okay? As said, it will be hard. And I do understand when it comes to other viewers out there, maybe Leanne, maybe some others that come on in recent time and may genuinely feel that I am attacking Bob Farrell. Well, it's obviously unfortunate for you to think like that, but obviously if you like someone, you're probably likely to defend them. You may have more of an emotional connection to them. So if you do sense any slight form of negativity or criticism, you may see that as an attack on the person you like, which in some situations, you may translate it as, if this person has a problem with them, then they have a problem with you too, and you will do what you can to defend that person's name and honour, such as Leanne. Now, as well, with Leanne, she does joke about, mess around, and that's probably more so because she likes a range of different people and just wished everyone could all work together and it'd be all nice, fluffy rainbows and soft clouds, etc. At this moment, and I've seen in the past, there is a rainstorm, or you could say a tornado, and it's a little bit twisted. It's a bit all over the place, but it's okay. So I understand different people's mentalities out there, but they may be somewhat dense or one-dimensional, only seeing it from one perspective. And obviously that's very unfortunate and a little bit poor in quality, okay? I have noticed a pattern that the majority of people that do support, defend, or like Bob Farrell don't see it from my point of view or the Dylan Rounds case perspective as for the damage and impact it can have on the case as caused by someone like Bob or the people he surrounds himself with becoming a part of the problem, okay? When you get those supporters out there that may like someone like Bob, the pattern of note is one-dimensional, only seeing it from one perspective mainly. So a form of egocentrism, okay? Egocentric individuals. Not seeing it from a more, what would you call it, holistic scale, like how I do. It might simply be because I've got vastly more experience in this field with human behaviour than most of those humans out there do themselves. So I will see it from many different angles and perspectives. Maybe my standards are significantly higher than most humans out there in a form of, what would you call it, high expectations, in that others should be able to see it the way I do. But I think being realistic, Not everyone can see it the way I do, and not everyone can see as many perspectives as I do. So I do need to lower my standards a little bit and my expectations there. But I think when there is common sense brought into a conversation or a discussion such as this, valid observations made, key points made, no direct personal attack on Bob Farrell, just simply stating the obvious as to what's previously happened and what the current situation is now. A change in attitude, okay? That's what was highlighted at the time. Anyone that is confused or need further context, be sure to check my previous video out. It will explain it a lot clearer. Top right corner of this screen where the I symbol is, if you click on that, you will be able to find the video. Be sure to watch it when you can. If you don't decide to watch the video, but you do decide to comment on here and complain, that's your problem, okay? You want to understand it from different perspectives. You want to try and learn before you open your mouth. Watch the previous videos, because if not, it's a prime example of being a lost cause, okay? What I will say once again, it doesn't apply to everyone out there, but those that may be closer or have a stronger emotional bond to a said individual that's in the limelight, maybe perceived in a negative way, those people can be just as defensive as Bob Farrell. And that doesn't really do anyone any favors. But I have noticed that too, just as an observation, okay? You can say, well, it's a good sign of loyalty showing, but I think a few people would scoff at that, considering there has been many changes in relations and connections with one another. And I think one more additional valid point to make is that despite how others out there may see the previous video in a negative light, me critiquing Bob, or at least in other words, highlighting the reality of what he was like in the past with the Dylan Rounds case and how he is now, it's like erasing everything from the past and shifting the blame elsewhere, which is a little bit irresponsible and childish in a way, immature, low standards, arguably speaking. But put that aside, what needs to be highlighted is if you want to look at it from a positive angle and perspective, this is not coming from me, but if you want to have a takeaway positive, okay, all the resistance out there, the whiners, the complainers, the freeloaders, you want to take a positive thing away from this video or the previous one, you could highlight and say that Bob Farrell, although feeling attacked by Warlike Wrath, in recent time Bob Farrell has attacked Warlike Wrath for vulgar language, some inappropriate words and insults, which will be proven today. We'll take a look at that. I do document it all. Now, that wasn't the positive. What is the positive is it seems to have reignited a spark and energy within Bob Farrell. Now, arguably, Bob Farrell, in a way, was, what would you call it, hibernating in a way, in like a cocoon, almost laying low, in hiding. That's what Bob Farrell has been doing for some time now, for whatever reason, okay? Things going on in the background with other communities, whatever, but laying low. But because of my video recently, it's actually, I guess, given him a boost in confidence to put himself out there and do a live show here and there, a couple of them back to back. So you could say that Bob Farrell should be very grateful and thankful for the video that I did about him. If you want to take it away as a positive from an alternative perspective, a perspective which I've created and given to you, so you can think of something positive for once instead of always complaining as to my videos. And that's what was just said then is a takeaway for the outsiders, the third-party people, and the rejects and the freeloaders that aren't regular viewers. You want a positive thing? Well, I've just given you one. You know, the people that like or support Bob Farrell, because of my video in recent time, indirectly, it's given a spark. It's made Bob Farrell motivated, in a sense, to get the confidence to make a video, do a live show, regardless of the resistance and the people that attack him. Now, was that my intention? No. As I said, I was specifically linking it to the Dylan Rounds case because what Bob was talking about was to do with the Dylan Rounds case. And arguably speaking, Bob Farrell didn't really have a right to be speaking about it, considering his take on things in the past, being away from the original narrative, could be seen as disruptive and problematic, okay? But as for the positive, Bob Farrell, motivated, inspired by Warlake Wrath. So Bob should be grateful in a way, but more so audience members out there that may like him but hate me, you should be grateful as well, possibly. Because without me, without my video recently, Bob would probably still be laying low in the darkness, in the bushes, wherever, in the igloo, under the sand, who knows? Now, what happens next? That's obviously an important point. Well, really, nothing should happen next. A valid observation was made. That's a one and done video specifically there. It was perfect timing because of my predictions from the past. I like to come full circle and conclude. I concluded with the Dylan Rounds case as a whole, and now I've concluded on a case study focused scale, right? Arguably, the case study could have come first and then followed by doing the generalizing part. But to be honest, in the order of how things played out, naturally, it was the way it was naturally, so it didn't need to be changed. Because once you change it or you start manipulating it, it's unnatural. It doesn't have the same flow. So I'd say it's all under control there, okay? So in terms of the next part of this video, it's just simply observing what Bob Farrell had to say recently, okay? This video highlights how unstable he can be and restless and as well a bit problematic. It puts into perspective as when you compare Warlike Wrath and you look at Bob Farrell, who is really doing the attacking. And I'll just put this into perspective before we look at the actual comments by Bob himself. When you consider a person being attacked, well, obviously, if it's physical, it would mean being slapped, punched, kicked, grappled, slammed to the ground, or a face repeatedly bashed against a concrete post to the point where even a forensic team, and if they did try retracing the pieces, it would be hard to recognize. That's a form of physical attack. If we're talking about verbal attack, verbal assaults, that is a valid format too. But how does that come about? What can be examples of verbal attacks? Well, it could be vulgar language used, it could be offensive words, it could be triggering words, you know, stuff like that, really nasty behavior done with intent, right? And what you'll see today, Bob Farrell demonstrates and ticks some of those boxes, which is obviously unfortunate, but it is what it is. When you look back to Warlike Wrath and what one was doing at the time and in the past, it was just simply doing it in a neutral, formal way. You look at how one speaks, you look at their facial expressions, their body language, their tone of voice. Now, arguably, you could say it's hard to compare a voice with text, but if you've listened into the background in the past, if an individual like Bob has referred to the name of Warlike Wrath, hasn't always had much good to say about him. So it has been negative there in the background, and insults were used and others joined in as well. So very childish behaviour, not done in a formal way, not in the basis of disagreements or just simple opinions. No, it's we'll jump to the insults, we'll jump to the nicknames, the messing about, the making fun out of someone. Yeah, it's very silly behaviour, but it is what it is. Maybe you could argue and say, do you expect any more from those type of people? Maybe not. I mean, it's kind of like Ty Corbyn in the past, where when there was a disagreement or there was a bit of tension, Ty Corbyn's go-to choice of words was by falsely claiming a video as being clickbait when it wasn't, so breaking YouTube TOS, false claims made by Ty Corbyn, and as well resorting to silly little insults and word changes, name changes, nicknames but done in an insulting way. Okay, childish behaviour, but once again, do you expect anything more from that type of person? Maybe not. Now, you've always got the argument to say, well, didn't Warlike Raf mention some, custom names or nicknames? Majority of the time that was done in a light-hearted way, semi-light-hearted way, not in a realistic, serious situation. Because when we need to be serious, I can be serious. I think the question is, can you? There's a range of strangers and irregular viewers out there. People out there, not regulars, the others, who don't always take things serious. And that can be a problem. Arguably, once you know the situation, it's not as problematic. And I'll just give you a quick case study example. Someone like Matt Lingo and Dale, they mess about for numerous reasons. Once you understand how they work, cognitively speaking, the cogs within here, once you understand their behaviour, it's fine. It makes more sense. An example like Leanne could be similar to someone like Matt Lingo and Dale in terms of joking about a bit of lightheartedness. But sometimes, obviously because one hasn't been around the other for longer periods as to others, it might be harder to tell. There might be times where Leanne is being serious on my channel or in the chat, but it's hard to tell when they are being serious. So they could be misunderstandings at times. One could underestimate the other. But that'll all come down to how the other person has presented themselves most of the time. If a person most of the time presents themselves as a class clown, don't be expecting any change in the future when, if you were being serious or highlighting a serious problem, the other people were like, yeah, whatever. And I'll give you an example, okay? Just a quick example. You think of a high school situation, you've got a class clown that jokes, messes about, makes up jokes, light-hearted, a little bit dipsy, messing about, whatever. Okay, people may see it funny, positive, maybe a bit annoying, who knows? But there's a norm. There is repetitive behaviour. There is a cycle behind it. You know what to expect. But the moment that class clown is being serious, whether they share personal thoughts of them feeling suicidal, the majority are probably going to laugh it off and say, ha, good one. But that class clown is suffering inside. But because they've been messing about for so long and made many jokes so long, the rest are used to that. So when the time comes where the person's being serious, the rest aren't going to know. They're going to see it as, oh, you're joking again and again. And then when it's too late, people will find out and not much can be done. So how you present yourself can be very important. If you can demonstrate a balance where you can joke, you can mess, but you can always be serious at times, if that can be made very clear, then there shouldn't be any problems. But someone like Leanne tends to mess about quite often, which isn't a bad thing. But if she is being serious, it's hard to tell, okay? So in a general situation, if anyone got triggered by that, it's pretty much tough shit. Improve one's standards and your approach towards humans and make it very clear on current, ongoing or future situations, okay? You'll see it with me. If you extensively analyze my videos, my body language, my tone of voice, how I can switch and change to the appropriate moment, probably could say arguably a lot higher standards and better quality, but that's just because of practice and time spent with doing these videos. Not everyone does that. So an example like Leanne isn't a YouTuber, so she's not going to know everything, the ins and outs of YouTube and how you present yourself online, okay? Some people will be lacking experience, but they will have more experience elsewhere to compensate for it. Okay? So, with that aside, let's transition on to the outburst and the meltdown, once again, of Bob Farrell from last night and begin reading some of the comments. Make sure to listen, look, and learn. So here is the initial response by Bob Farrell reacting on his community page on his own channel in response to the video that I created at the time, making a neutral, valid observations of his behaviour and attitude changing with time, specifically in the Dylan Rounds case, because that's exactly what I cover and have participated in within that case. Bob Farrell said, "Oh my goodness, that nutbag is at it again, Dr. Raff. Dude, you are one idiot. No one really cares what you have to say. Go play in traffic or whip your arse as you seem. You missed out the M, so you spelt that wrong, to like it. Moron. Listen to his idiot making fun of me. I haven't bothered you in months, Dr. Warlike Raff. YouTube needs to strike you channel down. You mean your channel. You've missed the R out. Channel down for good like sheet cakes." So he means salty pancakes from the looks of it. Okay. So where do we go from here? Well, as for his sentencing structure, it's a little bit all over the place. If, I don't know, some kind of person that's a major in English language, they would probably have a stroke reading this. But nevertheless, just try and contain yourself and hold it together. We'll go for it bit by bit. So Bob Farrell is calling Warlike Raff a nutbag. And that's been said numerous times. You could interpret that as an insult. So you could say already this is a verbal personal attack on Warlike Raff, being honest. Now, Bob Farrell refers to Warlike Raff as Dr. Raff. Now, obviously, that term is used and has been portrayed in videos when it's been of a light-hearted nature. But Bob Farrell seems to genuinely believe that I am a doctor, which is very interesting. If that truly is the case, Bob Farrell, if you ever need counselling or some kind of psychology analysis, you can book an appointment, a consultation, if you want to. Okay? There have been numerous patients that have come knocking on my door with time, and each one has left as a much better person, with a better path in life and mindset. Okay? So, it's not too late for you too. So take that in mind, Bob Farrell, if you need to free the toxins of your own mindset, embodiment being trapped within, internal chains suffocating. You need to be freed. Feel free to reach out. But that aside, Bob Farrell says, "Dude, Raff, you are one idiot." If I am an idiot, does that correlate to me having an IQ of 116? I don't think so. So Bob Farrell is calling out Warlike Raff as an idiot. So once again, another insult and verbal attack on Raff. Calling Raff, calling me an idiot with zero proof. So it's not a good look, is it? Bob Farrell does say, no one really cares what you have to say. If no one cares what I have to say, then I should have 0 views on my video. But I have over 100, maybe 200. So over 100 people cared to listen and see what I had to say on the situation. So it makes your point invalid, Bob Farrell. And as well, if you're saying that no one really cares, that means you're including yourself in the conversation. So if you didn't care what I had to say, why are you talking about me here in this comment? And why are you insulting me in the process? If you didn't care, you wouldn't react. And there is a later comment as well which contradicts Bob Farrell. And you will see patterns of Bob Farrell. Besides making false promises endlessly with time, Bob Farrell is a walking contradiction. That's not an insult. That is an observational fact. Okay? Now, Bob Farrell says, go play in traffic. So Bob Farrell is hinting that warlike Raph needs to commit suicide and kill oneself by getting hit by a vehicle. So that's great life advice coming from someone of an older generation, in a way signifying or possibly wishing death on a younger individual. That's a very clever thing to say, not. So it's a little bit pathetic. Bob does say, or just whip yourself as you seem to like it. Now, once again, Bob Farrell seems to misinterpret the light-hearted videos as seen on my channel. Bob truly believes in the whippings. Bob Farrell seems to believe in the dungeons. So once again, a misunderstanding. Interesting. Bob says, moron, listen to his idiot making fun of me. There was no making fun of. As for the voice or the tone of voice, that was specifically done to highlight the tone of the said individual who would be talking at the time. Because when caps locks are on, one way of interpreting it can be of a shouty tone. Okay? So that was done to recreate the image portrayed by Bob Farrell, and even the voice as well. So there shouldn't be a problem there. Okay? The one valid thing that Bob Farrell does highlight is, I haven't bothered you in months. So one thing that it does go to highlight is, by Bob saying, I haven't bothered you in months, would mean, okay, he's not attacked me, he's not caused me any trouble the last few months. But it does signify that he had before that. So, I've not bothered you in months, but I did before that. That's the underlying meaning behind that sentence. So Bob Farrell basically admits that he has caused me trouble in the past, but for the last few months, he stayed away from me. So that's Bob Farrell's way of admitting to the problems and him being at fault in the past, which is the right step and the pathway in the right direction. If Bob Farrell was to keep that mentality up, maybe things would become a lot brighter and clearer for him. Okay? But something tells me that's very short lasting. Okay? Now, what else that needs to be highlighted? The bit about, I haven't bothered you in months. That part is true. He hasn't bothered me in months. So would you put the argument across and say, well, if that's the case, then why did it warrant Warlike Raph making a video about Bob Farrell in recent time? Well, once again, nothing personal in that sense. It just so happened to encompass what Bob was talking about recently was about Dylan Rounds. I cover the Dylan Rounds case. So regardless of who's talking, if they mention Dylan Rounds, I'm going to take a look at it to see what's going on, to put things into perspective, to spread awareness, to debunk, reinforce, or share my thoughts, opinions, and analysis on the matter. And if triggered people out there don't like what I do, well, tough. This is a prime example of multiple different perspectives of different people. Good people, bad people. The prime example that the reason why Polish girl in Vegas had a go at me and wanted me to take videos down to do with response videos in the name of Jim Terry is a prime example of balance and different perspectives. So even from the not so favourable individuals out there, the most hated individuals out there like Jim Terry, I'm being told to remove my videos on that person, right? But I covered them at the time because they were to do with Dylan Rounds, / or defending myself. So they need to remain documented and archived to maintain that full picture, a complete jigsaw puzzle. Once you start tapping away and removing bits, you start losing those traces. That is not good, because when you lose a pattern or rhythm, previous problems can come back to haunt you and history can repeat itself. Maybe some people out there want that upon themselves. Well, they're just a lost cause once again. But the next part that's very interesting here. Bob Farrell says YouTube needs to strike Warlike Ref's channel down, just like, I guess, Salty Pancakes. So, a channel that has covered the Dylan Rounds case and obviously other missing people cases out there, have provided help in spreading awareness and keeping cases alive, and also documenting some very important evidence along the way, such as the Kenny Veach case. All very helpful in people coming along and learning about stuff. Videos and content which has helped people at times where they may not be in a good mood, they may be in a very bad place. Bob Farrell wants that all taken away, the whole channel. So Bob Farrell is basically enabling the removal of missing people cases. Bob Farrell is almost coming across as advocating for silencing missing people cases because he wants my channel taken away. Once again, very childish behaviour. A person that claims to care, maybe, about missing people cases or such as Dylan Rounds is the complete opposite here. It's very disappointing, Bob Farrell, your attitude at times, your outburst as well. Now, why would one's channel need to be struck or taken down just for simply responding back and highlighting a valid observation under Bob Farrell's name? Why is that? It doesn't make much sense. Now, if we move on to Bob Farrell's actual responses on the night in the live chat, all documented, highlight one thing, or at least acknowledge it, Bob Farrell. You were able to share your thoughts, your feelings without being censored or silenced, whilst you yourself may like censoring people, booting them off panel, or just simply closing the comment section down on posts or videos, whatever. It's all viewable here, so clearly shows arguably better standards and more freedom of speech here than over there. Okay, once again, a valid observation. Now, it's interesting how supposedly you had Watcher of Crazy, Jim Terry, and Bob Farrell all in the same chat on my channel. Who thought that would have ever have happened all in one place? But this individual, Jim Terry, whether that really is him or a fake account, something would make me think. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a fake account. That Jim Terry account, in case anyone's wondering, such as you, Watcher of Crazy, because I know you are a #1 fan of Jim Terry. You have posters of him in your room, under your bed, and plastered on the inside of your car. I'm aware of that. But just as a highlight, Watcher Crazy, that Jim Terry account was created in 2023. Okay, the original Jim Terry account was way back in the past, as you could tell by his videos being many, many years ago. So I believe this isn't a real account, but I could be wrong. Okay, so where do we begin reading? Bob Farrell says this arsehole is at it again. So already Bob Farrell, in a way, is kind of using vulgar words towards Warlike Ref. Bob Farrell says, I love to type in caps, idiot. So once again, Bob Farrell reiterates that Warlike Ref, an individual with an IQ of 116, is classified as an idiot without any proof. But once again, another personal insult and verbal attack on Warlike Ref. You may wonder, why am I referring to that constantly? It's because Bob Farrell is always on the defensive, claiming to be the victim and claiming to be the one attacked. And some of his viewers, or most of his viewers and supporters, take that on board too and think the same way as Bob Farrell. But when we put it into perspective, when you compare what I say and how I word things to what Bob Farrell says, it's an interesting situation. By the end of reading all these comments by Bob Farrell, you would think this is coming from a 5-year-old in terms of the vocabulary, the swearing, the vulgar words, comparing to Warlike Ref, who appears to be of a much older age, right? Acting one's age in an appropriate nature, right? That's how it comes across. If you didn't know who Bob Farrell was or his age, you would genuinely think this is coming from a child. Childish behaviour, very immature, arguably low standards. Okay? So, already complaining, being negative. That's Bob Farrell's middle name. Moving on. I did say to Bob, don't be hard on yourself. Now Skeptical approved of my American accent, which is very good. Bob Farrell says, I am not a moron. Good for you. What do you want? A medal? Bob Farrell did say, I am going to strike this for taking my content. Now I believe the next slide, classy, well, I don't know where it was mentioned now. Skeptical, are comments content? Sorry, I'm not a YouTube expert. Well, I will answer that right now because obviously I've been doing YouTube since 2013 and doing it more seriously 2020 onwards. So I've been around long enough to see how things go on YouTube, such as policies, guidelines, the way it's organized, copyright issues, etc. Okay, I did read somewhere when it came to copyright claims, you couldn't get people done on certain thumbnails or artwork like that because it's not exactly content, it's not a video, it's just a photo. But you've always got the option to report it in other ways like privacy, impersonation. So if a channel impersonates you, has a profile picture or just photos of you on their profile to make it seem like who they are, they're pretending to be you, you can report that under impersonation, but you can't report it under copyright. It doesn't quite work. So there's pros and cons to that and limitations along the way. But specifically, when it comes to content on YouTube, content equals videos. Videos are content. Okay, that's why you hear the claim of where people say you're using our content, you're making videos, or you're turning something into content, right? The term turning something into content, turning drama into content, basically what you're doing there is taking a story, an event, and then you're creating a video, which is content, and making a deal, a situation of what's gone on in video format, and then that becomes content material, video content. Now, when it comes to comments, actual comments, the comment section of a video, comments under the video specifically, that's not encroaching on copyright or none of that. That's staying far away from the video. If no video shows up in another person's video, well, then there's no copyright issues. If a person simply reads out the comment section of another person's channel, that's all of public information because the comment section is publicly viewable. There is no guidelines, there is no copyright issues broken there. And equally, as seen, if you used to go on somebody's channel and you went to the community tab section, and providing it's of public knowledge and it's publicly viewable, you're not breaking any guidelines there either. So at the end of the day, for Bob Farrell to say, I'm going to strike you for taking my content, Bob Farrell, the comment section is not your content. The community tab on your channel, if it's mainly comments, is not your content. You've not created it, Bob Farrell. Your supposed content is within the general public domain in which people have contributed to your channel in the comment section by leaving their own public thoughts. So it's of the people. It's not your content, you don't own it. People are free to share their thoughts and opinions. It's their comment, they posted it, not you. You don't have the rights to it. You got the option to disable comments if you don't like them, and even remove them. But in terms of people's opinions, everyone has their own exclusive individual opinion, and it's built at times off a collective consciousness of supporters and viewers on a channel, which participate in a public chat or the public comment section, which is vastly different to content which is of video format. A comment section is not a video, but a comment section can be transformed and turned into a video. Okay? And once again, the comment section is not your content because it's not a video and it never was. So I think Bob Farrell has greatly misunderstood how YouTube is and how it works. Bob Farrell has the same exact mindset and mentality of salty pancakes. So in the past, when I looked at Salty Pancakes' video, early on in the Dylan Brown's case, I checked out the comment section of his video. Not at any point did I include any of his footage in my video, I just simply looked at the comment section. So there was no copyright breakages there. It was all done above board. But because I looked at his comment section, he got triggered by it. And he said, oh, I'm going to report you. I'm going to claim copyright. Well, nothing happened because nothing was broken in the first place. So it was very irrational thinking from an irrational individual, Salty Pancakes. With that same mindset, Bob Farrell has demonstrated just now. So Bob Farrell, in terms of this example, is no different to Salty Pancakes in having that self-entitlement of comment sections are my content. No, they're not. They're in the public domain and anyone can contribute and share their thoughts. You don't own it. Simple as. Okay? If there is an exception, if Bob Farrell had a video on his channel in which portion of that footage from his video was using someone else's, then that would be copyright. If that video footage had contents of it which were highlighting comments and they were talking and narrating over it and then another person reused that in another video, that would be copyright. But in terms of the copyright claim and the ID thing, it would not detect anything here because this, like on screen right now, isn't even from Bob's channel, just as an example. It's from the comments section. Okay? You see many people on YouTube that will look at comments from their own channel or elsewhere and respond back to it. Imagery. Not video footage, not a screen recording, but an image, a photo. Even that isn't causing any problems on YouTube. So I think Bob Farrell needs to relearn YouTube, the practices and how things go about on there. Okay? YouTube is aware that if it came to false reports, they do manually check in on the content supposedly violating guidelines and they will take action themselves. So whilst Bob Farrell may want to be the police himself personally and take direct action, he is not in total control. YouTube are, and they will act accordingly based on the situation. Understand this, Bob Farrell, when it came to Brookie in the past, attempted to report my content for privacy violations simply because what I read out was of public information and they felt attacked by it. But no guidelines were broken because what was talked about and shared was from a publicly viewable article in the public domain in which anyone could read and basically research. So no issues there. So for all the people that have a problem with me, and just in general, for all the people that might like Bob Farrell, I honestly and wholeheartedly would like your thoughts and opinions on Bob Farrell's attitude, such as in this example photo right now. Any of you that may like Bob Farrell in any way, shape or format, do you honestly think that this is correct? All the people out there, especially those that do engage and watch videos on my channel to do with the Dylan Rounds case, do you honestly agree with Bob Farrell's attitude that this channel should be taken down after all that effort spent on the Dylan Rounds case and single-handedly keeping cases alive to spread awareness so they were never forgotten about? Do you think this channel is deserving of being taken down? I want to know your thoughts down below, okay? Do not hide, share your thoughts, even if they are negative. Even if you strongly believe in what Bob Farrell states here, even though he has no proof, no substance, and he's making up false claims, which is against YouTube TOS, if you yourself as a viewer on this channel or externally believe in what Bob Farrell says and agree with him, don't worry. Feel free to share your thoughts down below or in the chat. You won't be attacked. I may feel somewhat disappointed within you, but it will go no further. Just like how humans are free to wander about and go to other channels, there is no pressure there. Just like right now, there is no pressure. If you want to share your thoughts, feel free to do so. If you genuinely believe that Bob Farrell is in the right here, share your points down below. If you genuinely believe that Bob Farrell, despite having no substance, no evidence, and making up false claims on YouTube, false reports, if you think that's a good thing and normal, let me know down below. Okay? Me personally, I think this is very childish once again, and false reports just because Bob Farrell doesn't like what he sees. It's very silly. Okay? Now, moving on. Classy Colt says, Raf, honey, capital letters are easier to see for us old folks. True story. So that's why Classy was talking about why people have capital letters on, caps lock on the keyboard. Bob Farrell says, that's right, Classy. And Classy says, yes, Bob, I know, honey. And then Donnie says that Bob is the scum of the earth. That's another point. But the reason why this is very interesting and Classy, if you are here, Classy, feel free to listen in, because another key point is being made right now, and there is a contradiction behind Bob Farrell, okay? As an example only. It's small scale, but you can understand how you can scale it up. So Classy, I understand what you say. Capital letters makes it easier to see for people who may have poor vision, poor sight, regardless of age, right? Bob Farrell agrees. So it comes across as if Bob Farrell is doing it for that reason. For himself or for others, I wonder. If it's based on for himself and possibly for other people, so it's easier to read and see, there is a contradiction, Classy. Because in the past, Bob Farrell clearly stated numerous times, and even directly to me, that he types in capital letters because his caps lock on his keyboard is broken. That's what he definitively said in the past. So for Bob to not acknowledge that here, but to agree with what Classy says is very interesting. What Bob comes across here is that he has the caps lock on because it's easier to read and it's for older individuals. It's just easier to see for vision. So that's the main reason why Bob Farrell does that, having the caps lock on. Yet that was never mentioned in the past. In the past, Bob said he only has caps lock on because the keyboard is broken. Whether that was a joke or he was being serious at the time, that's not my problem. That's what was said, though, by the individual. So even on a very small scale example like this, Bob Farrell has outright contradicted himself for the reasoning behind why he has caps lock on. In the past, it was because of his broken keyboard, but now it's suddenly because of hard to read and age factors. There are two different factors behind why you'd have the caps lock on. And yet two different things have been said with time. So Bob Farrell has contradicted himself there. And what I base this on is I would upscale it to other situations, more serious, more important and bigger scale. And I would say that Bob Farrell appears to be a walking contradiction, constantly changing his mindset and his reasonings behind his actions. It's not a good look. And hopefully, Classy, you can see that, okay? Because these are valid points and facts based on what's been said in the past by these said individuals, okay? As unimportant as this may seem to most people, this is a clear example of contradicting oneself. And considering that the Dylan Rounds case, a general theme and pattern there was contradictions such as with the police or the family, as focused as it may have been there, whether it be by me or other people, hopefully, Classy, you understand why I apply it to other people too, to maintain that balance. Because if I only highlighted Candice Cooley contradicting herself or contradicting the story, if I only focused on Candice Cooley and I ignored Bob Farrell in the name of Dylan Rounds or the community, it would appear as a witch hunt. I don't want it to appear as a witch hunt. So I need to look at all people that demonstrate contradictions, okay? Regardless of the scale of it. Now, Moving on. Bob Farrell says it will never happen about Dylan's picture. So I believe that's in response to not taking it down. So it comes across as if supposedly Bob Farrell will keep Dylan's photo on his profile for eternity, forever. Even though supposedly people in the background want him to take it down, such as the family, supposedly, and Ty Corbin passing on the message. Now, is keeping Dylan's profile picture on your own channel a major problem? It's not a major problem, but I can understand not everyone will agree with it in a way, because there are some people, members on the Facebook page, that are taking down stickers in Dylan's name because that was more to do with finding Dylan Rounds, and that's not valid anymore because Dylan has been found. So there's probably some exceptions as to taking some stuff off because it's been solved. But as for Dylan's legacy and remembering Dylan, yeah, having a profile picture up. But obviously everyone's different. This is just from my point of view. It's just an opinion. It's not strong enough, okay? But personally, I would think it's a little bit odd. And that's just an opinion, okay? We don't need to take it any further there. I just think it's a little bit odd how a person would honour someone so intensely for so long and probably forever in life when that individual has never actually been in physical or close contact with Dylan Rounds, nor never knew him, nor never communicated with him, not a family member, not a friend, yet quite connected. Is it a parasocial connection, relationship in that sense? And I don't mean a gay relationship, I'm talking about a friendly, friend-based relationship. Obviously, with the Dylan Rounds case as a whole, people have been very emotionally connected and invested within the case, but, you know, a range of people will have their limits and cut-off points, won't they? Now, the most important thing behind this, though, is the contradictions once again. Bob Farrell in the past did say he would have Dylan's profile on his YouTube channel up until Dylan Rounds has been found and there's been closure. Well, that's happened. But Bob Farrell has gone against what he originally said, so he's going to keep it up. Is it a major problem that? It's not the end of the world, okay? But once again, it clearly highlights contradictions, not keeping to one's promise. So it's disappointing to see. And when you see numerous patterns and repeated action with that, it's not going to get any better. Now, Bob Farrell suddenly resorts to calling out Warlike Raph for buying subscribers. Buying subscribers. Why would an individual jump to that conclusion when there is absolutely no proof or evidence to suggest it? Now, people's small mindsets in the past was like, this person has 10,000 subscribers, but only 30 people watching a video. That is very normal, okay? If you're not a gated community, you're not going to have loyal people watching all the time, okay? I've got 10,000 plus subscribers. Quite a lot of them come and go, okay? Last time I remember, 319,000 views in a month. A majority of them were new viewers. It's not often lots of returning viewers come back. It is why it is, but it's natural, okay? And on top, when it comes to live premieres or live streams, not everybody will be watching at the time, okay? You give it a day or two, more people catch up on the video. Not everybody can make it in time for my videos because of the time scale and the time zone difference. So, like some of my videos in the past, not that long ago, which have over 10,000, 20,000, 70,000 views, not everyone was watching on the same day, at the same moment, at the same time. But give or take a few days later, everybody caught up, or at least new viewers caught up, and the view count on the videos have surpassed the subscriber count. Different things can happen at different points. Bob Farrell, you need to understand there are bigger channels out there with over 1 million subscribers and only have 10 to 30,000 views, okay? It's just because those subscribers haven't returned back on a daily occurrence. They came and they left, and new people keep coming along. And the new people coming along are in lesser numbers than the ones subscribed, who are not returning back. So you're going to start accusing all these well-known established YouTube channels as for buying subscribers? If so, it would at least make you balanced, but it seems like you have an agenda against Warlight Ref. Right, because Bob Farrell is of a smaller channel and has smaller statistics in certain areas, Bob Farrell simply can't comprehend how my channel is and how it's grown with time. Take in mind, I started in 2013 and now it's 2024. It's taken that many years to get to 11,000 subscribers. If it's taken 8, 9+ years to get to 11,000 subscribers, yet for other people out there, it's taken 4 to 5 days, right? It really does put things in perspective. You could even argue and say that Warlight Ref's progression in subscribers has been extremely slow and poor, considering for how long he's done it for, okay? If it's taken 8, 9 years to get to 11,000 subscribers, how could you even come to the conclusion that subs were bought just like that? The excuse that some could use is because of the influx, but at the end of the day, if you're not monitoring the channel and the views in the background with passive videos, passive views, and short-based content, if you don't do your research there, and you start jumping to conclusions about the subscriber count jumping, you are missing a key part of the jigsaw puzzle, and that is videos trending and gaining traction. If you're not looking out for them, you won't understand the complete picture of why the sub count is the way it is, okay? So Bob Farrell, you have a lot of learning to do, okay? This is very amateur behavior from yourself. You may not be a YouTuber, but you do create videos on your channel, which arguably does make you a YouTuber, a content creator in a sense. So because of that, you should know better. But clearly you don't. Now, don't worry, Bob Farrell, you're not the first person to falsely make false, serious accusations and slanderous claims against Warlight Ref, which is also against YouTube TOS. Indiana59 has done the same thing by suggesting that Warlight Ref buys subscribers. So it looks like both in the same boat, those type of people. Their expectations, their warped reality. Not quite there with it. Lights are on, but no one's there at home. That's unfortunate, but there's not much more I can do about that, okay? Badger Life calls Bob Farrell a sick man. Bob Farrell says, screw you, Badger. But at least Badger Life is being honest. Now, showing one's own thoughts and opinions without hiding behind someone's back. So, Watcher Crazy says to Bob Farrell, wanna be my co-host on a live? And Bob Farrell says, sure, anytime. Now, because of Bob Farrell doing his recent live streams, it appears that Watcher of Crazy appeared on panel. I don't know why. I don't know for what reason. I don't know what was said, but it happened. We got Donnie Does the Dishes. Keep collecting pictures of teenage boys, Bob. We all know what you are. So basically what Donnie is highlighting here or suggesting is that Bob Farrell is a certain thing. But obviously I'm not going to say the word only because that will be twisted and made to seem like that I'm saying it when I'm not. I'm just highlighting that other people are suggesting it. Badger Life says, yes, Watcher Crazy has no friends, Bob. Skeptical. I'm 56. I was taught capital letters for the beginning of sentences and proper names. Exactly. Correct. And even like named locations, countries. So that's correct. Watcher Crazy. Nope. Not online. I don't have any friends. Interesting. You don't have any friends, Watcher Crazy online. So what does that mean for the nips and the whips? Are they not your friends? Are they not your allies? Ooh, poor whip. Now, moving on. Bob Farrell responds to Donnie saying, Donnie does dishes, keep wishing. You are correct, Skeptical. Skeptical says, thanks, Bob. So Bob Farrell says, you are correct, Skeptical, that you should be using capital letters at the start of sentences and the names of people. So Bob Farrell has contradicted himself once again. He doesn't practice what should be preached. Bob says, you're doing the right thing, Skeptical, but I'm not. But he's not exactly acknowledging that he's doing it wrong. So once again, another contradiction there. Bob Farrell says, I do certain things just to piss you off. Okay. If one was pissed off, their tone of voice would be a bit all over the place, be disgruntled, would have facial expressions of a certain form of tension and pressure building. Obviously, we're seeing the screaming, wailing banshees and the dogged nature of some people out there, whether they have a profile picture of a dog or not. Their whiny, whingy tone, and it's been very clearly outlined, and as you've seen on other panels and live stream shows where people outspeak and overtalk one another. You resort back to me. My criticisms have been that I talk either too slow or I have a monotone voice and I display zero emotion. So on that basis, and a range of people have claimed that with time, that, okay, I'm talking like a robot. Well, normally a robot doesn't have any emotions. So if Bob Farrell's initial response was to piss an individual off, such as a robot, that robot would respond back in a neutral tone, exactly as it's demonstrated here. So Bob Farrell, regardless of your secret fantasies within in what you want out of an outcome or situation, it appears you're not getting what you want here. And that's why you're resorting to name-calling, insults, personal verbal attacks on Warlight Ref in an unnecessary tone, false claims made, and going against YouTube TOS. So keep on digging yourself in a hole, okay? It's not a good look. It's embarrassing. It really is. We've got Casey. Welcome to the channel. Never seen Casey before. Casey says, Bob, take that photo down. Bob Farrell says, no, moron. This case is far from being over. So once again, Bob Farrell is now highlighting that once the case is over, he may consider taking the photo down. That's a contradiction based on what he originally said in the past. He said, once Dylan has been found and there is closure, then he would take it down. But now he's suddenly backtracking on it and saying that, no, the case isn't quite over yet, there's more to come. So what's more to come then? Detective Bob Farrell, private investigator expert? That was being sarcastic then, in case anyone was wondering. It seems like Bob Farrell seems to know more than anyone else within this case. More than Corey, maybe? Or have you been influenced by Corey once again in the background? You said a case is far from being over. Well, if you actually bothered to watch my videos, Bob Farrell, you would understand the situation and state of things as to the questions of certain areas like the cause of death and the location of where he was buried, right? Mainly it. Interesting. Do we have any more? It appears Sam. Bob Farrell says, laughing my arse off. Got a few phone calls that your mouth was running wild again. Donnie says, Bob, what teenage boy will you follow next? Was it Aidan Clean, or has that already happened? I don't know. Bob Farrell says, I will follow your arse, Donnie, or Matt, or Dale, whatever your name is. So it looks like, once again, Bob Farrell is calling out Dale and Matt Lingo, supposedly. Whether that be because Bob Farrell believes that Donnie does the dishes is secretly Matt Lingo or Dale with an alternative account, or that Bob Farrell means he's going after Donnie, Matt, and Dale. Who knows? It seems like an endless soap drama there. The question is, will it be dropped? Well, it has been by the odd individual in the past, bent over. But Bob Farrell does say, I got a few phone calls that your mouth was running again, hence why Bob came on over to my live premiere. He could well do the same thing again in the chat tonight, possibly. Okay? So there are eyes in the air and lurking in the background, as per usual. Gabriel's messengers, people lurking in the bushes. You could say it's good to know that Bob Farrell has people watching out for him and passing on messages. Yeah, okay. But what do you want? A medal? A cookie? The biggest contradiction here, Bob Farrell, and it really does definitively conclude with your mindset, attitude, and contradictions made. You say that you got a few phone calls about me making a video about you, hence why you came to my channel to just berate and go on a barrage of a bombastic, idiosyncratic attitude, okay? You've come here because you were told that I was making a video about you. Yet, earlier on, as we saw in this video, afterwards, you said that no one really cares what you have to say. So you're including yourself in that conversation there, that Bob Farrell doesn't care what Warlike Ref has to say. Yet there was more than enough care to come on over and check what was being said in the chat. Isn't that interesting, as you see here? I got a few phone calls that you were running your mouth, hence why I'm here talking about it. Yet at the same time, Bob is saying that no one cares what you have to say. Well, if you don't care, you wouldn't participate in what's ever happening, okay? It's like, if you don't like something, then don't participate in it. If you don't like something, then why are you here, okay? You're going against your own mentality. You're going against your own words and quotes. Hypocrite. Contradictions. It's not a good look, Bob Farrell. You need to improve yourself. You got a lot of learning to do. Now, besides that, what else do we have here? So Bob Farrell says, go play with your ref. I'm not going to say the word. Now, what does Bob Farrell mean here? Go play with your pussycat, an actual cat. Go off and stroke a cat? Or Bob Farrell assuming that Warlike Ref has some kind of gender reassignment surgery? Well, last time I looked, that wasn't the case there. So Bob Farrell once again with some kind of vulgar, impetuous, unnecessary language. Okay, could be seen as an insult. Not the end of the world, but it's just odd language, okay? Odd language to be using towards a younger individual. It comes across a little bit creepy. Whether it be some kind of sexual fantasy, sexual frustrations, as demonstrated by the likes of Jim, Terry, Mr. X, when they couldn't get what they wanted, even though they tried so hard to be able to appear on panel on this channel, but they didn't get what they want. They may elsewhere, but other people are easygoing and of low standards. Yeah, different here. So, you know, being realistic, if I myself was to participate in the Dylan Rounds case, if it occurred way back then and I was interested in covering videos and I was around the age of 14 or 15 at the time of covering it, and Bob Farrell came out with the same language here, that could be considered very creepy and inappropriate behaviour towards an underage individual. It just so happens that that isn't the case here, but I think there would be a chance that it would happen. The same thing said here probably would be said back then if age factors were of a different scale. So it's quite, you could say it's a little bit disturbing what's being said in a sense. And you could also argue and say, if you're talking about the anatomy of a human, that a male has female parts, how would Bob Farrell know, right? It would suggest or imply that the only reason why Bob Farrell is stating that is because he's seen it himself, which comes across a little bit odd and creepy. So Bob Farrell is digging himself into a hole once again, which is not a good look. Okay? What's mentioned next? Badger Life says Bob is a sick person with sick fantasies. And if we're talking about fantasies, I guess that's almost proof of it. I'm not saying that Bob is sick, but what other people are claiming, it seems to tie in line with some of his comments and behaviour with time. Whether he's joking or not, it comes across as questionable. Just like when Bob Farrell mentioned about, what's the age of consent or something in North Carolina, 16, and Bob said, I best go down there. Is that exactly the right thing to be saying? Probably not. Was it a joke? Possibly, but still, it doesn't do yourself any favours, okay? Now, what else mentioned? Leanne says, yes, I'm out. So I don't know what that means. I'm out of here, I'm not coming back to Warlike Ref's chat. Who knows, but Leanne is still here after all this time, so she keeps coming back. Now, Leanne says, Bob is the best. That's an opinion, not a fact. And that appears to be it there. So, at the end of the day, once you've gone through that exercise of listening in and actually visually looking, regardless of how biased you may be and how selective you may be, you're seeing actual proof of what Bob Farrell has had to say in recent time. Whether you think it was justified or not, surely you can highlight that it seems a little bit impetuous from him and a bit inappropriate with certain lines used. If you are thick-skinned or hard-headed, that's not an issue. But clearly, you should be able to understand that there is false claims of buying subs. There is no proof or substance behind it to reinforce or suggest his point. He's making false claims. You, as a viewer, a supporter of Bob Farrell, surely you can see that yourself, okay? That's why I said I want to know your thoughts as to what you think about what he's had to say about my channel. And also the claim of using content when comments are not content. They're not a video in the first place. They can be transformed into a video, then that does become content. But initially, it's not. Okay? So with false claims being thrown around, if any of you like Bob Farrell, okay, just remember in the past what Salty Pancakes did, okay, calling people traffickers, crisis actors, all kinds of insulting things and slanderous claims. Maybe some of you yourself may have been caught in the crossfire. If you have, then you most definitely should be able to understand this situation where Bob Farrell is in the wrong for some of the stuff he's stated and claimed, which is false. Once again, we come full cycle. In certain areas, not everything, but in certain areas with attitude, behaviour, words, language and claims made, Bob Farrell is no different than Salty Pancakes. They're almost like the same exact person when it comes to certain behaviour. Okay? That is a fact, based on what's been publicly documented from what Salty Pancakes has said in the past and what Bob Farrell has said in recent time. Okay? So maybe there's a range of people out there, regular viewers, but more so outsiders that may need to take a long, hard look at themselves to break through that biased wall, okay, to understand it from multiple perspectives. There might be a form of resistance, and I do understand for those people watching and those suffering in silence and those trapped in the background who come from elsewhere, I understand, besides being attacked for having an opinion, I understand why you may not want to break through that barrier, break through that biased nature, because once you do so, you see the truth, you see the reality of things, and you get it from different perspectives. Maybe you're scared of that. Maybe you're worried that it will cause issues for yourself. Most of the time, that shouldn't be the case. Maybe there's a lot to comprehend and it's overwhelming, but you don't have to rush. You break down that biased wall with time, over time, and you'll see things may not always be in a bright or positive light, but you'll see it in a realistic sense. So if you need to break the cycle or escape a cycle, escape some kind of trapped feeling within or outside, you pick up different perspectives. It'll make things a lot easier and clearer to see situations. Okay? And at times where you can see it from both sides and both points of views, less hunted in a way. You can diffuse situations. See people at heads with one another. You're in the middle of it without getting caught in a crossfire. You understand it from both sides. You pull two away, separate, under control. Not everybody can maintain that immediately, but with time and practice, there is hope for you. So whether you want to take this video away as a negative idea or you take it away as a positive, there's different outlooks on this situation. So one other thing to highlight, while some people may get their pants in a twist and think that this video is really focused on this individual and this subject only, no, it's all under control. The way the day has gone today, one has been busy with other things and doing other stuff, so one is limited to time and what's happening later on. Okay? I didn't want to dedicate myself to a serious, full-on, more important video of an actual case because I wouldn't have enough time to make a video on it, and I don't want to rush it either. So with the little time I had today, that's why I made this more casual video, but still with a serious tone. Once again, that will highlight again on a consistent basis, there are some lackadaisical, dipsy individuals that have got their heads in the cloud and they don't see reality. Okay? They can come across as a lost cause, but if they do try to look, listen, and learn, they can break away from that. But it does come down to a personal choice. And something tells me not everyone will take that form of action. But it is what it is. Okay? My name's Warlike Ref. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like and share it to spread the awareness of what's going on and the disastrous, chaotic behaviour by Bob Farrell, the personal attack towards Warlike Ref, the unnecessary vulgar language used, and false claims made along the way. I'll see you next time on a completely different area and theme and topic. Goodbye, good night for now.